yeah. Just get on board. Hear me now. People, get ready for the train to come. Picking up passengers from coast to coast. All you need is a little faith to hear the deeds or humming. Don't need no ticket, just get on board. People, get ready for the train to Jordan. Picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key. Open the doors and board up. There's room for all among those loved the most. I believe, oh, I believe, I believe, oh, yeah, yeah, I believe, oh, you don't need no ticket to just get on board. Hear me now. There ain't no room for the hopeless sinner who would hurt all mankind just to save it alone, save it alone. A pity on those chances grow slimmer, for there's no hiding place against the kingdom's throne. So people,
Two, three, four.
I was born by the river in a little tent, and oh, just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard to live it, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause who knows what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming. I know, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. And then I go to my brother, and I say, brother, help me please. And he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Whoa, there been times that I thought, whoa, I would last too long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, Oh, yes, it will. It's gonna change. It's gonna change. Oh, yes, it will.
Popcorn world. Popcorn world. Yeah. we can. So you can get this groove in the back of a can. Put your Jamaican Robin World and the boots in your hand. Popcorn World. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. I said popcorn make you smile. Ah. Yeah, popcorn world. Popcorn world. Popcorn world. It's a popcorn world. It's a popcorn world.
There might be less football being played, but BetOnline has way more stuff to bet on this playoff season. From score totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline is the number one spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. Hey y'all, it's your boy Lloyd Spence, and with the new year comes a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V, to get started. And it's not just football. BetOnline's basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC odds coverage is the best of the business. From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is your number one online wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite game. BetOnline, where the game starts. And tell them the noise maker said.
What's that saying? Breaking down the room, I'm smiling now. Speaking for the people who must go around. Taking truth to power with a whisper and a shout. We're talking noise. Oh yeah, talking noise. Hey, yeah. Say it again, say we're talking noise. Yeah, talking noise. Really don't have time to fool around. Never noise keeps us under. When truth divine, the sign that you need is a sign of success. We're talking noise. Oh yeah, talking noise. Yeah, picking up all the same. We're talking noise. Oh yeah. Talking noise. Say it again. We're talking noise. Welcome to Talkin NOIZ, the daily podcast that brings you up to speed and keeps you informed about real issues affecting real people. With your host, Mr. Talkin NOIZ himself, Lloyd Spence. His beautiful wife, Mrs. Noise, Kenyatta Spence. The ever-informed Brother Noise, Alan Brown. And yours cordially, Uncle Noise, Shake Anderson. Come on in and join us as we reveal and opine today's most pressing issues. Real truth while having real fun. Talkin NOIZ is in your house right now. So sit back and enjoy Talkin NOIZ. We're talking noise. Talking noise. We're talking noise. Talking noise. We're talking noise. Talking noise.
2, 1, ready, come on.
lucky we got 'em.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good times.
One of the most dangerous schools in America.
The threat of violence overshadowed the promise of education.
Children defying God and a new principal trying to turn the place around.
Principal Wayman is the fourth principal the school has seen in 4 years.
Because I love these students dearly, I'll just volunteer. But when I walked in there, it was more than I bargained for, though.
Switchblades and fistfights a daily concern.
Somebody thought it was cute. Just started on fire. The gentleman said, don't you know we do what we want? I might be able to get him into Harvard, but I can't give him some hope.
While she's more worried about her student's safety,
Each day it gets scarier.
the student threatens her life.
You need a motherfucking bullet in your head. Released from a juvenile facility. He was so violent. And that scared me to death. Being suspended for beating up so many children, we didn't know what to do. We were getting more and more concerned. What's up? His behavior, we could not control. Miss Jackson, can you hear me?
The outcome that astonished us all.
I need some officers on these floors.
How did the first day of school turn tragic?
That is one of the subjects of our discussion today. This young lady who is an amazing principal and deep in the fight. She is deep in the fight. And she sparked the conversation that we wanted to have today in relation to schools, and not just to the extreme of violence and a lean on me level situation, but just in general. How do we save our schools is the topic for today. And I'm Mr. Noise, and that is Mama Noise, and that handsome devil there is Al B. And we are all here. Why are you looking around? Why are you looking around? You know what it is. You know what it is. And we're glad to be here with you today, noisemakers. And normally we would start with the church announcements. The call to worship. But today this is like a church meeting. So we're gonna have a church meeting and a community meeting and just talk about the intensity of the moment and the circumstances that we have gotten ourselves in. And I know that this young lady and their school, they serve as probably the more, I say they serve as the more extreme of the conversation, but maybe they don't. I don't know. But we will definitely get into all of that here in just a little bit. But shout out to the noisemakers pulling up in the building. Appreciate each and every one of you. We don't even have no church fans today. We don't have no programs. Just go to your seat and get comfortable and enjoy the show today. Mama Noise, how you feeling today?
I feel okay.
You feel okay? Oh, boo. My boo. Just okay today.
I'll be fine.
Oh, look at you being a trooper. All right. Al B, what's going on, man? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. As you can see, I'm not in my normal environment. I got about 20 minutes, and then I got to report inside to work. That's why I'm sitting in the parking lot.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well,
it sounds like you're not feeling as good as you say, but I hope you feel better than how you sound. I'll just put it like that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Mama Noise is yet holding on, as they say. She is.
We have old school country church today where they just prop the windows up.
Right.
Good fans, we're just gonna prop the windows open.
Yeah, no piano, just wooden floor and hand claps is what we're doing today. So yeah, we got an interesting show. I wanna dig a little bit deeper into the young lady, the principal. You know what the irony of this research we've done today? I've gotten everything research-wise from this video except her name. I still don't know her name. So I'll try to find that while we're listening to the second part of this video.
I don't know her first name, but her last name is Wayman, Mrs. Wayman.
That's all I need, Mrs. Wayman. Okay. Y'all pay attention to the second part of this video as she's doing a TED Talk talking about her experience as taking over as principal of this school.
Shortly after I walked into my new school, a huge fight broke out among the girls. After things were quickly under control, I immediately called a meeting in the school's auditorium to introduce myself. I started listing as forcefully as I could my expectations for their behavior when all of a sudden, a girl way in the back of the auditorium, she stood up and she said, "Miss, why do you keep calling this a school? This is not a school."
And the violence still was not subsiding. We were getting more and more concerned.
Each day it gets scarier. Somebody that thought it was cute just started on fire. To the one day the kid said, "You need a bullet in your head." Just said to me was that I have a bullet with your name on it. I know I'm really accessible in this neighborhood, so I don't think that it's unreasonable that he can get his hand on a gun and shoot me. The first time that I woke up and said, "Linda, I don't know what you've done here, because your kids are going to be without a mother." And that scared me to death. Now, I really wasn't keen on non-violent assembly programs for a violent school. They came in, showed a film. I don't know where they got this film from. It was a true reenactment of the Columbine school shooting. So I'm sitting there along with my staff, and we're absolutely horrified and scared to death when I heard this outburst of laughter. And I was shocked. And I said, "You gotta talk to me about why you're laughing at something so horrific." And one of the girls, in a sweet voice, she said, "Miss Wayman, do you really think that was something?" She said, "We see that every night on our block. That's nothing compared to what we see." I understood. I understood why there was so much violence. Because the kids were in a deep state of despair. They were so traumatized by their own lives, they could not even feel others. I knew the only way to turn this school around was to love those children for who they were.
Loving children where they were is what she said. Not an easy thing to do, especially on the streets of Philadelphia, where she was. She is the principal there. She's a 30-year educator. And I couldn't, when I say I don't know, we hadn't finished our research on her, but it's Linda Cleot Wayman. So she is a fascinating person in her own right, a nominee for the Global Teacher of the Year. She didn't win it, but she was nominated for Global Teacher of the Year, which I guess is impressive in its own right, just to be a nominee. But here's where she finishes up the TED Talk that she gave there, which has garnered about 2-3 million views.
People would say to me, "How could you love children like that? Look at them." I had one particular student released from a juvenile facility that was assigned to my school my first year at Strawberry Mansion High School. He was so violent. His behavior we could not control. After being suspended for beating up so many children, we didn't know what to do. So one day I said to him, "I'm going to sign you up for a program."
Let's go, Anthony, let's go. This is my first time ever playing quarterback. I feel good. I stepped up today.
He was our star football player, leading us to a winning record of 8-0.
There's
just celebrating.
What are we, 10-0, 9-0? What are we? I think
we're undefeated.
Undefeated. First season ever. One day, while we were in conversation, he said, Mrs. Wayman, one day I'm going to the University of Pittsburgh. I said, have you ever been to the University of Pittsburgh? He said, no. I only saw it on television. As soon as I left my office, I called my counselor to plan a trip to the University of Pittsburgh. She said, for how many students? I said, one. He graduated this coming June, and he was honored with a leadership award.
55 out of 92 senior students have been accepted into college. For some, that's not enough. They can't afford the deposit fees guaranteeing their place. Senior Christine Holland.
If I had $550 to go to Philadelphia University, I would.
You know, I love you. I might not be able to get him into Harvard, but I can give him some hope. And I don't estimate our hope, because when children have hope, they can succeed.
4 years later, she was given a full scholarship by Philadelphia University. And so Wayman whispers once again what she used to say to all the kids.
And remember, if nobody told you they loved you today, no, I do. And I always will.
I love you too.
People going to tell you sometimes that you're nothing. People going to tell you can't get up, and you're going to say, yes, I can. And if nobody else expects for you to do so, I expect for you to do so. I just believe it's my calling. And I believe my whole life journey is for me to try to help them the best that I can. I truly believe that. When we are faced with unbelievable challenges, we must stop and ask ourselves, so what? Now what? What are we going to do about it? If you are standing in one spot, afraid about what would happen if you choose left over right, do yourself a favor. Do not worry about directional order. Just be sure to move. Move one step closer to fulfill that dream you have always had for yourself. Go get it. You got it. Because not taking a risk will only lead to regret. Time is ticking. Tick, tick, tick.
There it is. So I have a lot of thoughts on that video. Obviously, I don't know if she's a doctor. I don't think she's a doctor, but Miss Wayman is a phenomenal principal, and the work that she's done in that school is, unbelievable. Really, just really amazing. My challenge is, because I'm also a product of a school turnaround, and the principal did similar things in Lucian Yates at Western High School, and this was 30 years ago. My challenge is, it seems like the only time we see these levels of turnaround like this is in hero type circumstances, where a superhero comes in and swoops in and makes the situation better. And it really makes it better for that school. The blueprint that it takes to make it better for all schools, we haven't discovered yet. Because in order to make it better, if this is the blueprint, then that means we got to have 100 to 1,000 Linda Waymans. And maybe we do have those out there, and I'm just not aware of it, but she seems more like the exception than the rule. So I'm challenged by the video, the beauty of it, by the also harsh reality of it, in that, is that really the solution? Is she and her type of love, if I can say it that way, is that really the solution to our bigger problem. And so I will turn the question over to Al first. How do we save our schools? You're with these schools, you're with these kids every day right now, bro. So how do we save our school? Is she the answer or her type the answer?
Her approach is the answer. I think our schools as well as our communities we're missing compassion. We're missing love, and she talked about that. I think one of the key things she said in that second segment that you showed was what these kids witness daily in their communities far exceeds what they're seeing in school. The level of violence that they're seeing in school is nothing compared to what they're living. I'll just use Jefferson County as a quick example. The first month of school, not even a full 30 days, but the first month of school this school year, there had already been reported 400 fights in Jefferson County School. 400 fights. Wow. That's just fights. That's not, the other things that go on, acts of aggression. These are just fights. So I think part of the problem is we're at a stalemate because you have fear, the desire to survive, staring down compassion and love. And unfortunately our fear and our desire to survive these violent situations, this violent era that we're in, exceeds our level of love and compassion. And until the compassion and love for these young people is greater than our fear of these young people, we're not going to make any progress.
Oh man, you said a lot there, Al. You said a lot there, brother. Mama Noise, what are your thoughts hearing the video, seeing the video, and then also hearing what Al just said?
First of all, let me commend Miss Wayman for her exemplary, extraordinary efforts when many educators, and this is not a knock on the educators, but as many educators that do not have that. It is fight or flight. It is that. You're either going to get in the trench and fight, or you're going to say, that's too much. I want to go on the sunny side. If y'all remember, people in Louisville, in Jeffersonville, they used to have a sign, a big, what they call the big signs that advertise off the interstate?
Billboard?
Yeah. The billboards had come to the sunny side of, like, the sunny side of Louisville would be on the Jeffersonville side.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people would rather, I know, right? Is that they'd rather go to the sunny side instead of trying to get in the trench. And I will be honest with you, my Mr. Noise left the house many a day. I was very concerned. I would be interceding continually at the thought of the areas that he used to go into, teaching kids. And you know what? I didn't get it, the foreshadowing that God was setting me up from the beginning when I met Mr. Noise and he was in the projects trying to help kids. I didn't know that was going to be the future, but that's his heart and passion. The ones that people say are, excuse my emotion.
That's okay. It's an emotional topic.
The castaways. Those are the ones that Mr. Noise gravitated to. Those are the ones that he embraced. Those are the ones that he fathered. So it reminds me of Miss Wayman, because it went from there to here in Texas. I thought, okay, we've left, we've moved, and now we're here in Texas, and he's going to pursue teaching in this area. No, he's drawn to South Dallas. And I'm thinking, okay, until, you know, every time I turn around, somebody's going South Dallas, you know, why doesn't he teach over here? But, you know, it takes a certain type of teacher to have a heart to, and it, like I said, this is no knock against all educators. It just takes a certain type of teacher that says, I won't give up. And I read a lot of the chat that was saying things to the effect of, you know, like your grandmother used to say, one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. And I understand that. But if everybody gives up, these kids in this video, they had no hope. Is why they're fighting every day, you continually. And if I didn't experience it myself as an educator, that the one girl that kept laughing every day, I was like, what is her problem? Like the lady in the video, like Miss Wayman. She's like, what in the world are you laughing for watching Columbine, if that's how you say it, watching this horrific video, but the girl was laughing, saying, this is what I see all the time. And that's a verbatim what Miss Wayman was saying. Yeah. And we like, well, where are the parents? Why are these children in a state of survival 24/7 where they can't even go to school? Or
yeah, so again, you guys are, man, off and running as I knew you would be on today's topic. And I'm looking at the chat, and there's some hard questions being asked even in the chat. Because there is a harsh reality to also what Ms. Wayman is saying, and that reality is what Stefan and Sean are saying. Yeah, you're going after these kids need love, and you want to give love to that kid, but are we putting too much emphasis on loving the worst elements of the kid of the room? And in the midst of loving the worst element of the room, you sacrifice the kid that's not that bad, or the kid that was trying to do right all along. It reminds you in some part of the prodigal son. Everybody talks about the prodigal son and how bad he was and how he left the house and he did this and he did that and he got down so bad that he was in the pig slop and eating the pig slop and all those different things. And everybody talks about that part of the story. The part that they don't talk about is that there was a child in the house trying to do right. Every day, all day. He was doing the best that he could to live up to the expectations that were set for him. And his dad was Miss Wayman. She said, I got to go get my son, and I've got to put a robe around him and put a ring on his finger and love him away from all of his worst mistakes, away from all of the things that he did wrong. I've got to revalue him and get him right. But in the process of doing that, you made the other child feel the way, to the point where the other child had to come back to you and say, hey, man, I know this guy did all this stuff. I get it. I understand he had a horrific situation. I understand it was really, really bad. It was horrible, everything that he went through. But what about me, who's been here in your house? I don't get the same thing that this guy gets. And obviously the story worked out well in the Bible, but I think there's a reality check there that I think we don't quite fathom in this whole thing. And it made me look at the story a little bit differently after I thought about it. You know, there's something in the parenting of the prodigal son that is missed, that he didn't get the message, but the one son did get the message. And so as a parent, you feel compelled, or as a leader, you feel compelled to go try to save that son because of whatever you feel, whether you feel like guilty or whether you feel overwhelmed or whether you feel, you just feel something inside that says, I got to go get this kid. And I'll tell you, it is not an easy thing to teach in a classroom where you have some elements of that classroom that are the worst elements. And you can't, and to be honest with you, from my experience, you really can't teach that class until you corral that worst element. But there is some sacrifice or shrapnel that hits the better kids in the midst of trying to win the worst one. And so it's tough. It is tough. It is a hard choice to make. And I understand why Ms. Wayman made it, because she was like, man, if I don't get these guys, I can't get anybody. But if I do get these guys, then it makes it maybe a little more palatable to get the other one. So it's a very tricky thing. And I don't know if I honestly don't know if it's the real answer. I really don't. Because I've done it. I have done it. And to some degree, I think it worked. But then to other degrees, I think maybe I might, the time that I could have given this one that was already trying to do the right thing, I probably should have given them more time, and they probably would have gotten along a little faster or better. So I don't know. I don't know if, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that part of it. The thought engineer just pulled up on us.
Greetings.
What's going on? I'm glad he had time today. I was praying he had time today. So what are your thoughts on Miss Wayman? What are your thoughts on what we're discussing today? You live with a very dynamic educator who has done it, who has lived it. I mean, so you've vicariously watched it, and you're probably have lived through it in some respect, that without no shade, but having gone to Bastrop, that is not the most well-funded. I mean, just being real, it's not the most well-funded district in America.
Teaching in South Dallas too.
What you say?
I did some teaching in South Dallas too.
That's right. I forgot. Oh man, bro, you've been an engineer so long that I forgot. You're right. You have put your time in South Dallas as well, sir. So I apologize. That is correct. That is correct. Well, you took me back on that with Derek. I forgot about that.
It was a long
Yeah,
time.
I remember now. You're right.
I had a kid, man. On the surface, he was a knucklehead. He was annoying. Oh, he got on my nerves so bad. And I was plenty of times, man, because he had to be the funniest guy in the room. Mm-hmm. He had to be, he gonna challenge everybody. He was, and everything was loud with him, So it was plenty of times, man. I was just like, man, they just need to do something with this kid, get him out of here,
Right.
Got into a fight, and then his uncle come up, and his uncle, myself, and one of the counselors had a meeting about him. And so the uncle who he was living with, they started talking to the counselor, and they started telling everything that he, had been through. And I'm listening like, what? Because on the surface, I know what I see. And what I see makes me want to, kick him out, get rid of him, But after I sat in there for about 5 minutes listening to it. And I said, will y'all excuse me? And I get up and I leave out because he's sitting outside. And I go to him and I said, hey, man, I said, I'm sorry. I didn't know. He's like, what you talking about? I said, man, I didn't know you had it like that. I didn't know it was that bad. And the wall came down. And he sat and we talked. And man, his mom would bring different guys by. He didn't know who his dad was. He knew he was mixed, but he didn't know what. He didn't know. And she would bring different guys by. This your dad. They playing with him. And he didn't have to fight dudes off his mom, all this kind of stuff. She was on drugs, and she put him out. And when he was a kid, he had to sleep on the steps, like 5, 6 years old, sleeping on the steps outside and all this kind of stuff. So I'm like, and my wife often says, behavior is a response. She says that a lot. Behavior is a response. And I just think for that lady, that principal, you got to be called to that.
Yeah.
Everybody can go in that. Everybody can do that.
That is very true.
You got to be called to that. Like my wife, she's taught in Title I school her whole teaching career, and she wouldn't have it any other way. She doesn't, she could work in the more affluent parts of North Dallas, Plano, and all this kind of stuff. She doesn't like that. She likes kids that she can talk to a certain way. She likes kids that are going to respond a certain way. And when you got kids that have such a passion, that passion has to be redirected. Because as bad as they are, if you can redirect that passion, you can get the best out of them. And her first year was her hardest. She transformed her class, and she had the worst of the worst, because literally all the teachers took the kids they didn't want.
Oh yeah.
And they created her class.
Yeah.
And it's time. I mean, she cried sometimes, and she wanted to pull her hair out and all this kind of stuff, but she locked in and was able to do some things. So I understand the kid that's sitting there, the kid that they're focused, they need that. But some kids are those linchpins. If I can get this one, the whole thing will come,
And I've seen that as well, Derek. If you grab, as hard as that kid is to win, and as much time as it takes to win that kid, because it does take time and it does take trust and a whole bunch of other things. But once you've got that kid, he kind of becomes now the standard bearer for the entire class or the entire school. And now everybody kind of falls in line, because you go, well, if he ain't allowed to do this no more, the rest of us ain't gonna be allowed to do it. So it kind of it's a hard, but I have always wondered though, because I won't sit here and tell you that my win of that kid has not come at a cost of some others. I've had kids in my programs, Jarek and I are referring to when we taught GED, in some very rough neighborhoods, like very, very hardcore neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
But I won't lie and tell you that my focus of trying to win that kid to set the standard of the program didn't sometimes cost me the kid that says, I don't have time for this. There's been a couple of kids over the years that'll go, man, I came here to get my GED. I don't really care about your program, and I don't care about you this, or I don't care about your classroom. I care about this. I've had that as well. So it brings me back to that question, and Cuz just pulled up. So now the conversation is just going to be elevated all over the place. How do we save these schools? And before you both answer that question, there's another element that I want to share with you guys in regards to that question. And guys, you guys did a phenomenal. Let me just say, the research today was on a level that come on, y'all guys, y'all the bomb.com. But I want to show the first 58 seconds of another video that you guys sent me in our research for today's show. So just watch this.
Raise your hand if you're married. None of you are married. Raise your hand if you would like to be married to your baby's father. One. The rest of you who don't plan to get married, why don't you plan to get married? I'd like to know that.
You already have your child to think about, and then a whole family to care for. It's a lot of responsibility, and then you don't want the commitments.
I wouldn't want no man holding me down, because I think I can make it as a single parent.
But don't you think you might need help in raising that baby from a man?
Not really.
That is from a 19. Now here's what's ironic about this video. This is from a 1986.
That was doing the whole babies having babies campaign.
That was doing the whole babies having babies. And somebody reminded me of that video today. And I was like, oh, I forgot about this one. So if that was going on in 1986 and before, and all the way to now in 2022, it begs that question now again. Because Sean, in perfect timing, put this statement, it's going to take the whole community, family, friends of family, neighbors, everyone. And that sounds good, Sean. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, if that's what we're turning to help the kids in the schools, and even to Derek's point, the mama who, this your new daddy, this your new, woo. I want to give Cuz the opportunity to respond. And Cuz, I purposely didn't send you that one because I wanted to see your on-air response, and it did not disappoint. Let me just tell you. I wanted to see your on-air response. So, your thoughts, sir, and welcome. It's good to see you this morning.
Mr. Thought Engineer, did you attend Grambling?
Yes, sir, I did. I am a Grambling alum.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
For those of you who don't know, that's Mr. Cuz Noise's way of getting his thoughts together. Go ahead.
I just noticed he has on a Grambling shirt, and I appreciate your attendance at HBCU.
Oh, yes.
That's excellent. What are my thoughts on that video?
Well, yeah, and then obviously the ones we've already seen, but yes, sir.
Well, I was in meetings, so I haven't seen the previous one.
Okay, very fair.
I feel like a one-hit wonder. That's all I got for you. It has taken us years to get where we are. We are really dug into the dysfunction of what may have some point seemed like empowerment for women. We are deeply entrenched in the dysfunction of the destruction of our families. So much so we don't even recognize it as destruction. Our behavior, we don't recognize it as destruction of the Black family, because we think we're operating out of our rights. I have the right to screw. I have the right to have my kid, my baby. It's my baby. But your rights are infringing upon a community that needs families. Because somewhere, somehow along the line, somebody's going to have to help you with that kid. You cannot do it by yourself. It's going to take somebody, whether it's that daddy, whether it's some other man that comes along and looks past the fact that you already got 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, or whether it's your mother, your grandmother, your sister, Nim. Somebody has to help you. So the intention was for there to be more than just a mother raising a kid. It takes more than the mother to have that kid. It takes more than the mother to raise that kid. But we don't look at it. Our thought processes are so backwards at this point that you trying to tell someone that they are hurting us because most people only care about themselves and their situation. They don't see the bigger picture. That's in politics and that's in life. People don't care about the community. We say we do, but we don't. Because if we did, the things that I could do, I wouldn't do, simply because it's going to have an impact on the community. That fella that keeps skeeting them nuts, what's his name, with all them kids?
That would be Nick Cannon, sir.
Nick Cannon's only thinking about self.
Yeah.
He's not thinking about the community because the community cannot afford, even though he can afford, the community cannot afford an example of another black man not taking care of his kids in person. Now, I give money. He got the money. I give money. But parenting can't be part-time, people. But you're telling other men, hey, listen, as long as I give $1 or $2, I ain't got to raise them. That's the message you're sending. You don't give a damn about the community.
Well, look, if you keep a person hurting, they can't see past themselves. They can't. Pain makes you selfish. Pain absolutely makes you selfish. And you can't see beyond that. Self-actualization doesn't come if you subscribe to Maslow's hierarchy. It doesn't come until certain things are secure, right? And what we're talking about is it's a thing to where now I start to focus on my impact, or I want to have a contribution to what's going on around me. But if I never get beyond the basic needs, then I never reach that point. One thing about it is I'm not trying to get nobody excuses, but you got to remember this is systematic. This is systematic. People talk about the introduction of welfare and how welfare has eliminated the man and all this kind of stuff. Listen, people do research. The whole point of research is to predict and to control. I like psychology. I like looking at psychology stuff. And I started thinking about it. I said, why do people even study the mind so much? Why? Because I want to be able to predict and control. So these systems aren't fly-by-night things these were careful think tanks that were set up to perpetuate some result. And I think we're getting the result. We say, yeah, the key to the schools is get the family back together. But now I got to look at what happened to the family. How did the family get disrupted to begin with? And I got to really dig into this thing. These young women, they young, they don't know. Right. But when that kid gets old and they can't do nothing with him, and now is where your daddy at, where you told the daddy you didn't need him at the beginning. You sent that message to him, but now when you can't handle what's in front of you, now it's like, okay, now I need you. No, you need it in front of the beginning. And it's not that the woman needs it, the child needs him.
There is a wow, y'all saying some heavy stuff in here today. You put a lot of pressure on a guy. There is a mathematical theory. I think it's rooted out of fractal geometry, and I won't get into the technical terminology of it all because I barely understand the technical terminology of it all myself. But the theory, in a sense, is that if you look at chaos long enough, patterns start to emerge, and then you see exactly what the equation is for why this chaos exists. So you mentioned, Derek, that there's this, we study psychology to study the mind. And essentially what I see you say, because while you are the psychologist aspect of this, I am the sociological aspect of this. So I study societal patterns and how we think in groupthink and how we emerge out of chaotic situations. And so when you look at the chaos that has taken place within the Black community, you do see the patterns very clearly. You see that by those young ladies sitting in a room and emerging with the thought process of, I don't need that man, you start to see why Principal Linda Wayman, who is with the video we started with, is not even necessary, crucial to saving our schools. But the problem with that chaos is how do you duplicate that? How do you duplicate one person going in with I see a Dr. Smith, and I look at, I've listened to her. We've talked so many times, especially in the beginning when she was really in the fight. I remember some of them conversations and the tears that would come to her eyes, and I understood what she was going through because I've been there. You've been there. And so I got it. But I also understood she was going to be successful because she was driven to be. But I also understood that was going to be tough to duplicate. That's going to be tough to duplicate. Now, to her credit, she's done as well as you can do in the situation that she's in with that school. She's duplicated as many as were willing to follow her pattern and emerge from the chaos with solution. But the problem is solution requires humility. And the people that would duplicate the pattern of a Linda Wayman or Dr. Selena Smith must also carry a measure of humility to realize that this is the path to success. And it's not my path, it's the path. And I don't know how we get that because Derek, you're a one-off when it came to the GED program. I was a one-off to the GED program. It was kind of funny because I would say the location that cousin I worked at, those kids weren't quite as bad, but they had challenges. But I wouldn't say they were bad. They were not nearly as bad as my Pleasant Grove kids and South Dallas kids. They weren't nearly that bad, but they had their own challenges. But even in that, we had a clear system in place to help those kids, which helped us have the highest graduation success rate in the city. And even with that, people still question what we were doing. They were like, well, but it don't work everywhere. Okay, but you're not getting nobody to graduate over here in this area. Nobody. Or very few people are graduating. We're getting a high success rate over here. Well, that's because you're in northern Dallas, and that has nothing to do with it. We have a system, and we stick to our system. So, it goes back to what you're saying.
There's an element to the system that's hard to duplicate, and it contributes to the success a lot more, and it's why people don't always get the same result. You got to care. You got to care. You got to care about the people that you actually trying to help. And if you just take it as, oh, this is the formula, let me apply it, and you just think it's just going to duplicate, no, you got to care.
And that is the missing ingredient. But how do you go to teaching and not care though?
That's what I'm saying. Everybody in teaching ain't called to it. There are some people that just needed a job. Let's be honest. The people that are called to it, you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
You can walk into their classroom and you can tell.
Oh my gosh.
You can tell by, even if they don't have it figured out, how well do they take instruction from more seasoned teachers that are giving them what to do and how to do it? You can't just say you're called to it and not expect that to be challenged. You make that declaration that you call to this, that declaration gonna be challenged. It has to be. So I don't think we have enough. Matter of fact, I think the ones who were called were driven away. There are a lot of called teachers who throwing their hands up because their hands are too tied.
Yeah.
They're constantly tying their hands.
Yeah.
So I guarantee you, remember Joe Clark? Joe Clark wouldn't take their job until they gave him all authority. It's like, don't come here with all your rules and all this stuff. Let me do what I do. And I think she probably had way more autonomy than a lot of these other people have to do what she did.
Agreed.
Because by the time a school gets to that point, people throw their hands up and they're like, yeah, just do what you got to do.
Well, and when they don't have the support of, like you said, she had autonomy, Joe Clark had autonomy, but in some of these districts, man, you don't have, the major complaint was that the teachers don't have the support of the district behind them. So
Mama Noise, I'll say what you don't want to say. The district up here, you don't have that support. Not to go rogue and to go where you need to go to reach the kids here. You do not have that support. They will side with the family
like
every single time. Now, to Cuz's point, when you have a majority of families that think or that are damaged and fractured, what are you asking teachers to do? Find unicorns and pots of gold? I mean, what are we talking about right now? I mean, that's an impossible task. Walk on water. It's an impossible task.
But if you think about a lot of the different things that's been going on over the years, like the one principal that built a laundromat in the school, where are they going to do that at? They built a laundromat in the school because the kids didn't have clean clothes. Okay, don't the clean clothes start at the house? They should, but the kids were making their way to school and they were feeling they lacked confidence because they didn't have clean clothes. The principal built a laundromat in the school. Another school built a food pantry in the school. The school I was at had clothes from the different thrift stores and stuff that had donated clothes and they were feeding them after school and stuff. It's like, okay, it's the absence of the village, the absence of the support of the community and families. And the school is being charged with giving them everything they are lacking.
So stay right there, because you just said something, the absence. Is that really what we're talking about right now? Because we can't win schools because we can't win families?
I feel like I shouldn't be on this call.
No, you should.
Because what was being discussed earlier was I believe in good teachers. I believe teachers can have an impact on students. But I also believe that that teacher will only have an impact on a handful of students compared to the total number of students. If the home life is jacked up, schools can't overcome that. It's nearly impossible, let's put it like that. So I have a very hard time ever, and you ought to know this by now, I have a very hard time ever blaming anybody or anything other than the family. I don't care how good of a teacher she is. If when that kid leaves home, there's no reinforcement, there's no care. Some parents don't care if you come home and play the rest of the day versus do any homework. They don't care. Now, some are so busy working, they're not able to monitor you. So you kind of fall between the cracks because they have to work double shifts or whatever you want to call it, 2 jobs, whatever you want to call it, in order to provide, because that's the only income in the household. So kids end up raising themselves. Yeah. To a degree, many of us feel like we raised ourselves because parents had to work so hard. Be honest.
Did you raise?
Be honest.
But are they raising themselves, or is the TV and social media raising?
Well,
because those ideas come from somewhere. The ideas that they're working on, they're supposed to come from the mother and the father, and then of course the village. See, one thing about the village that people dismiss is the village is not just about the child. The village is about the parents too. The village sets a standard for the parents that's raising the child as well.
Absolutely.
I was in the 5th grade. I was a latchkey kid. That's we don't use that term anymore. but I was a latchkey kid.
Yeah.
So my mom gave me an assignment every day. She said, when you come in, grab the key, go in the house, fix your snack. Your responsibility is to go in, after you've done, you get your snack, is to do your homework, make sure it's done, and then do your chores. She wouldn't make it chore heavy during the week, but there might be a couple of little things like a dish to do or clean your room or something like that. But I knew my responsibility was to do my homework, to do it at a high level and to finish it and complete. So when she got home, she could see it was complete. She worked as a social worker by day, and she sold Tupperware by night to make the ends meet. So sometimes she'd get home at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever it was, 10 o'clock, whatever it was. But I knew to grab the food that she left over, to warm it up in the microwave. I knew to wash my dishes and go to bed. Sometimes she let me stay up until she got home, but most times it was go to bed. I knew our routine. Now some people might say, well, that's bad parenting for her to leave you at the house till 7, 8 o'clock at night, whatever. That was our survival. But I knew my responsibilities. Have we absolved our children of any of the responsibilities that they have to be good children? That's number one. Or have we just not set a standard for them to be good children? And we're, like you said, they're allowing social media and TV to raise them. Or is that their responsibility to be good children?
Well, for the most part, I'm noticing in conversations with my child, who knows that she is a child, but in her conversations with her friends, many of them think that they're already adults.
Right.
And because they are so far advanced, more advanced than what we were. See, when you got in the house, Mr. NOIZ, the outside world was shut off.
Yeah.
There was only so much you could be exposed to in that house. Now kids are exposed to it all right in the house.
Yeah.
So the house is not necessarily a safe place. So kids are already feeling that they're grown at 16, 17 years old because they've seen and experienced so much.
Stay there for a second. The house is no longer a safe place.
No, it's not.
Wow.
And we know it's not.
Think about what was the number one rule when you got home. What was the number one rule when you got home? You was a kid, you was there by yourself. What was the number one rule?
For me, I believe, if I remember correctly, it was lock the door and don't answer for anybody.
Don't open the door for anybody.
Yeah, don't answer for anybody. Don't answer for anybody.
What is the front door to your house now?
It's my phone.
It's the internet.
It's the internet. Yes, my phone is the internet. It's my access.
So there are strangers that are getting in your house all the time. Even when the kids are there by themselves, strangers are getting in the house. The front door to take business. The front door to a business is not the actual front door, it's their website. This is how people are introduced to the business. When you want to know about a business, you don't drive up there. You go to their website.
You Google it.
Right. You go to the website, you look around and stuff. This is the front door. It's the digital front door. And people are not locking up that digital front door. Because this is where the strangers are trying to get in now. Kids are carelessly chatting with people that they can't see, thinking they're chatting with somebody that's their age, and next thing you know what I'm saying? So, and we can't expect kids to be that wise. They can be smart, but we can't expect them to be that wise.
Well, not only do I not expect them to be that wise, I don't expect them to overcome that temptation. We barely did it. Like Al said, don't have none of your friends in the house. Well, that works sometimes, depending on what we wanted to do. But
that made
work.
That made with them in there.
Right. So but now my friends, like you said, y'all said, cousin, and Derek, my friends can come in the house every day and never leave their house.
But some kids, if you recall, just a couple of months back, there was a lady who was we found out this young boy, black child that was so concerned about his mama getting his grades, he went in the school system and changed the grade. Wait a minute. This young child has enough intelligence to get inside the school's mainframe, access the motherboard, and change his own grades in the school system. So we take for granted that I'm gonna tell you, full disclosure, I had my calculator and I was trying to add up this stuff. I'm trying to figure out what my total was. And Anaya comes in and says, I said, oh man, I hit the wrong number and it threw my calculation off. She said, right here in the upper corner is these 3 dots right here. Just click the history. I said, what? The history button has been here all this time? Wait a minute. All these years I've used a calculator, I never even questioned what those little dots were up at the top telling me where the history was. And I'm going, anytime I go, oh, my computer's acting crazy, she comes in and goes, all you gotta do is touch this here. I said, fine, okay, get out. But it's where we are not thinking, they're thinking 10 steps ahead of. Matter of fact, this morning when I took her to school, she's like, oh, Mom, don't worry. While we're waiting on the doors to open, you and I can watch Disney. I said, I don't have a Disney app on my phone. She said, well, that's okay. The school has Disney. What? What does the school need Disney for? Same reason it has Pinterest. The school has Pinterest? I mean, I know. She's like, and we have YouTube. Okay, now at public schools, they're like, okay, none of this, none of that, none of this, none of that. But this school, Pinterest, she said, oh, well, the seniors got Spotify. What? So everything that we're saying, we're pumping the brakes on, or we're gradually bringing them into it, the school is saying, sure, why not?
So that brings me to an interesting shift in this conversation, Mama Noise. What do you do as parents and as educators when it feels like both of them have given up? Because if the school says, well, listen, once we're done instructing, you can go to any of these social media sites and do whatever you want to do. And we're going to monitor it as long as make sure it's not explicit. But, we're not going to tell you what the gray area of explicit is. And so I can't get the schools to back me up anymore. And I don't know what to do in my own house. The strangers get to come to my house. The stranger gets to spend more time with them than I do. So how do you educate that child?
That raises some issues, man. That raises serious issues.
Right.
You go down that rabbit hole, brother. That rabbit hole goes very deep, man.
Well, I'm just asking questions.
I think I kind of deal with that.
You said you kind of deal with that. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, for instance, every kid at school has to have a device. They no longer read books. They read off of their devices, whether it's your phone, your tablet, or your laptop. So they always have to have a device to be in class. And every now and then, as a parent, I reserve the right to take your damn device. And oh, Daddy, I got to have my device. I got to have my device. Well, you tell them you don't have a device. Let them figure it out. Because your device has been taken. So we have to, as parents, still be in charge of our kids. Something else that happens in my house that I don't play that shit. My daughter is a very social kid. She loves her friends. She's the only child, so she has nobody else but her friends. And all times of night, she'd be FaceTiming her and her girlfriends and such. And my daughter could be in the kitchen, be cleaning up, she'll have the phone over on one side of the kitchen and she's over on the other side of the kitchen. And these kids are FaceTiming in my house. So I can no longer walk my half-naked ass from my bedroom to my kitchen because your ass is in my house, technically.
That's right.
So I told my daughter, don't you ever do that again.
She can't FaceTime him?
No. You can FaceTime, but what you ain't gonna do is expose my whole room to where I can't even come into my own room because you got the kids observing the whole room.
He brings up a good point. The same way Mama used to teach you, when you leave out of this house, this is how you conduct yourself. This is what you should do. This is what you shouldn't do. The whole nine. We don't do this digitally. To Mama Noiz's point, she was oblivious to the technology stuff. And it's almost as if, like somebody said, and I said this before, kids are very smart. They're very intelligent, but they're not wise. They're not wise. That wisdom has to come from parents. That's that the parents have some wisdom themselves.
Right.
And if the parents don't have wisdom, that's where the village comes in. Somebody in the village got to have some wisdom. But kids are not taught how to conduct themselves digitally. Because the same dangers that Mama used to try to prep you for after you left out the house, you wander into them digital streets and it's the same dangers out there, probably worse. So there has to be protocol. There has to be something to where that same teaching has to transfer digitally because kids are not wise. They don't have their wisdom. And I'll say this, and it's not popular. This is why there should be at least one parent at the house all the time.
Oh, Derek, now you meddling.
Oh, the rabbit hole go deep.
Now you meddling, Derek. They're not ready for this now.
We thought the woman in the house was all about controlling her and all this kind of stuff. It's to protect the house.
How are you gonna pull out these antiquated ideas of barefoot and pregnant, Derek?
Because it's terms like that made women hate that label.
Right.
Therefore, continuing to make them feel like they're less than, pull them out of the house.
How does she become disempowered? If I can use that as a word. It's probably not a word, but it feels like a word. Because we took her power away from her when we put her in there barefoot and pregnant. And we switched the whole game up like Lillian did. She said, well, he can stay at home too.
Okay. All right.
Uh-oh.
Yes, he can stay home. I'll say this too. Ability does not equal right.
Uh-oh.
And we get those confused a lot. Because you're able to do something does not make it right. And once we stop confusing ability and right, this society would probably straighten up a whole lot.
What do you mean by that, Derek? What do you mean by that?
We've immediately interpreted, if I have the ability to do it, then I must have the right to do it. You take the alphabet people, their whole stance on life, you take everything that's going on. If I have the ability, somebody has to think beyond myself and my own desires to see what is best for the whole. At some point, I got to understand my life affects more than just me. Even if you're a single person, the way you live your life is going to affect more than just you. So you have to conduct yourself and move like your life matters and affects other people. My mom used to tell me, you can't just drive for yourself. You got to drive for yourself and everybody else on the road.
Let me tell you why what you're saying is so powerful, because we started this discussion today in regards to what we're talking about. And for those who are coming in a little bit late, the subject, how do we save our schools? We started with the conversation of Principal Linda Wayman and how she saved her school and helped to impact the Philadelphia school district. But the problem with what we're saying is that she had to save the school. She felt like she had to. And she felt like she had to because of what you just said, Derek. We've become so selfish as a society, doing our own thing, and we think our choices don't affect the whole. No. Regardless of the money you have, Nick Cannon, you having 8 kids is still going to affect those kids' school district, because some teacher is going to have to pull up on that kid on whatever that day is that you can't make it, because you got to work now. You got to work. So there's no way you can possibly be active in all 8 kids' lives at the same time. So now you're not going to be able to make this event or that event. And some teacher's going to be inevitably sitting with that child to make that child feel better, or why his father had to be on TV. Y'all stupid. He threw my thought off. While that child has to be affected the way that he's affected, because you can't be there. You can't be there. You can't be everywhere. So that goes back to what you were saying, Derek. This kid is, you taking your stance to be a strong single woman, single mother, has an effect on the rest of us. That teacher's going to have to do something with your singleness. Whether you believe it or not, it's going to happen. It always happens. Every action has an equal or opposite or more greater reaction. There's something that's going to happen because you did what you did.
You know why whoopings from your mother used to be so visceral? It seemed like they used to come, the justice had to come swiftly, because she didn't have time. She had other stuff she had to do. And correcting you was not on that list of things she accounted for. So she got to hurry up and deal with you and try to get you back in line so she can get back to other stuff that has to be taken care of. This is why the whoopings were so intense. Hey, make her have to miss work or miss some hours, and she got to come to school and deal with you.
You preaching now.
Hold on. That was the threat. For me, when they would say, do I need to call home? Okay, what we don't need to do is call home. Whatever, I'll take the corporal punishment. I'll take the licks. Just please don't, you know what they say, behind door number 1, take 2 licks. Door number 2, we call your mom. Nope, because if you call mama, that means the same promise she made before I left for school that says, if them people gotta call me and I got to get off my job and come up to this school because you didn't know how to behave yourself, I'm going to whoop you in front of those people. And then when you get home, I'm going to whoop you again. And then don't even ask me to go outside and don't ask me for no. And you're like, okay, I remember that speech and I blew it, but I'll take them 2 licks from the principal before I ever let you call my mama.
She had to correct you fast. She didn't have time to labor with you through what you're going through. I got to get you straight quickly. So yeah, it typically meant some butt whooping going to have to happen. Sit and talk. I ain't got time to sit and talk to you. Come on in here and get this whooping so you can act right. So I can get back to what I
got to get you back to functionality, so I can function.
But now that's a part of the problem. We don't talk enough. Corrective action is the whooping. We good at that. That's quick, fast, and it's over. But we don't do enough teaching. I'm appalled, if you allow me to say it like that. At the number of people that will say that their kids know better. How in the hell they know better and you never taken the time to really teach them? Teaching doesn't mean that you said it one time and they caught on. Teaching, I have learned as a parent, is like pushing the tape recorder and playing it over and over and over again until it sinks in. Now, after I have taught your ass over and over and over again and preached and teached and fussed and cussed over and over and over again, and then you don't get it, now it's time to beat your ass. But too many of us are willing to beat ass. I'm just being honest now.
All right.
We're good at corporal punishment, but we're not good at teaching. That's where the lessons are really learned. But you can't do it one time. You can't hit it and quit it.
Okay, but that takes time. That takes time.
I agree. But and that's the problem. We don't have the time because our family structure is jacked up. But listen, one of the worst whippers I ever have, and I have to get off here. I have some things I have to take care of. Listen.
Oh my goodness.
Listen, one of the worst whippers I ever had. My parent instilled in my brother and I that we were special. They really did. And they told us if anybody ever messes with you, you let us know. Don't ever let anybody mess with you. You tell your parents and we'll take care of the business. And my daddy was a gun collector. He had a lot of gun cabinets. We had shotguns. My daddy, he was not a hunter. I don't know why he had all those damn guns, but he had a lot of guns.
You know why he had them guns.
Huh?
You know why he had them guns. Where did y'all live? Where you grow up at?
I wasn't in the hood.
I ain't talking about the hood.
You from Mississippi, man.
I'm talking about them hoods. That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Trying to defend themselves in case them Wahites want to come.
There you go.
Okay. I would agree with that. But one time, they instilled that into us so much. They told us that so often. We will fight you back. Don't you go fighting. Don't you go. You tell us and we'll handle it. One day I was at school and the teacher, I felt like she was picking on me. And she just kept picking on me. I felt like she was picking on me. So I told that teacher, I say, listen, if you keep messing with me, my daddy gonna come up here and gonna blow your brains out.
Oh my.
This is a very true story. Obviously, the paddling wasn't what was necessary. They took me straight to the office and set me down in the chair and said they were gonna call my parents. Well, I felt safe because both of my parents worked. I knew nobody was at home. I was one of those latchkey kids too. So you can call my house all day long. You're not gonna get my parents. But they obviously had the work number and called my mom off her job. My mom called my dad off his job. Both showed up at the school. My point is,
they both showed up.
My point is, you have to instill in your kids, teach them over and over and over again, so that they will know. But just because they know doesn't mean that they're wise.
Well, hold on. I don't believe how the story ended.
It was very unwise for me to say what I said. I knew my parents would protect me, but it was unwise for me to go up to the school and tell the teacher that my daddy was going to blow her brains out.
So when they both showed up at the school, what happened?
I mean, you know what happened. You know what happened.
Man, it's the story, man.
Did they whoop you there? Did they whoop you at home? Was it a combination?
I don't have to go into the fact that they beat my ass to my ass.
Tag
Like
team.
I don't have to go into all that.
I just wanted to know how it ended. It just seemed
You
like
absolutely have to go into all that.
But I told them, I said, listen, I only said that because you guys told us.
You thought that was gonna save you?
You flipped the script and said it was their fault.
I know they laugh when they got by themselves. Oh, I know they laugh.
Oh yeah.
That little nigga went up there to SU.
And told that teacher.
Yeah, I did.
And the truth of it is, they probably would have done that for you, but you wasn't supposed to tell them that.
So parenting is not, in my opinion, it's not just discipline. We have to be very deliberate. And I know Mama Noise and Mr. Noise, they are very deliberate in teaching them right from wrong.
And let me say this, because when we hear discipline, it's amazing how our mind immediately goes to corporal punishment. Discipline is the lesson. It's the sit down and talking to. It's the instruction. That's discipline. We immediately go to corporal punishment. This is consequences of not disciplining yourself. But the actual discipline is the teaching. That's really what it is.
Mm.
Well, my teaching is fun. I'm a great teacher. I'm a damn. Her having to do what I tell her to do is the discipline part, because that's the part she don't like. And we have to go back and forth until she finally gets it right. That's parenting. And if somebody had warned me that would be parenting, I don't think I would have had kids.
Oh my goodness.
No, listen. Parenting ain't for chumps, y'all. Y'all better wake up.
Now that is true.
It is hard work.
Oh, very much so.
If you care, it's a daily task of teaching, reinforcing, teaching, reinforcing.
I mean, I had to explain to Hannah this morning. She want to know why boys seem like they just have a different girl every time they turn around. She said, "Why is that? They supposed to be in a relationship." I said, "A relationship."
So you think about what you said. Parenting is hard. What if you got 20 to 30 of these kids, 8 hours a day,
unparented? That's the challenge. They're unparented.
That's the challenge,
brother. I agree with you. Yeah. I agree with you.
Oh man, and Derek,
all right, Derek.
Job, almost an impossible job.
Dare I say, when they have the sex conversation that they have every year, I have to be in attendance for that. Not for my own daughters, but when I was in the school district, and it was absolutely mind-boggling what they thought of how they could get pregnant. I was like, with Google and all this stuff out here, you still come to the conclusion
but they don't. But see, Google doesn't cover the wisdom.
Right.
Google is only information, and information is no different than a bullet in a gun. It doesn't tell you where to shoot. It doesn't tell you when to shoot. It doesn't tell you the purpose of shooting. It doesn't talk about the protection in shooting. All it is just a bullet that you put in a gun that you can fire. And if you don't know what to do with that bullet or how to fire it or where or when or why, then it's just a dangerous thing to have. And that's what I think is happening with our kids. They have a lot of information. Thank you, cuz. They have a lot of information, but no real they don't have anything else. They don't have purpose or wisdom or understanding. They don't have context. They don't have anything. They're just out here with a bunch of stuff and dangerously floating through the world. That's why what we're talking about is so difficult, because we're saying, how do you save our schools in a world and a society that is bombarding our kids with information and without context, without proper context, or it's trying to rearrange the information to where you can't put it in context anymore and make it make sense. It's just a really, and then parents aren't doing the work to make sure that the kids have context of the information themselves. So yeah, our kids know how to have sex. Yeah, they know how to drink. They know how to get drugs, this, that, and the other. But they don't know the wisdom or why it's dangerous, or they just don't get it. They're just following along with the information that they've been provided. And it's a scary thing. It's a very scary thing.
Absolutely. But my thing is that, I don't even know why they even give that information. I don't even know why they have a talk at the school, because they can't say nothing. So it's really a lost cause, other than, well, we want to tell you all of the anatomical things that exist, but other than that, we can't answer your questions. And I realize you got questions, but we can't answer your questions. So it's kind of like, it's like what? I mean, I each year I would go, okay, the kids are trying to ask me more questions because they're saying this is a free for all. We get to ask you questions about sex. Well, come through then. Hey, I have a question. Can you get pregnant on your period? That's what I heard. I'm like, what in the world? But I can't answer the questions because of the school district. So it's like, what is happening?
I look at Linda Wayman again. She's the focal point of our study today. And I say, man, she is amazing in her willingness to tackle the depth of that problem there in the Philadelphia school district. And I look at how she took the one football player, you saw that video, and well, first of all, she took the one student, turned him into a football player, and then he became a college freshman, all because she gave his life meaning and purpose. The only thing that's left out of that video for me is I wish we could have seen how she partnered with the parents.
Yeah.
To make that reality a reality, because it appears, based on the way it was created, that she did that in a bubble, and he, it wasn't done in concert with someone else. And, as great as she is, as great as Linda Wayman is, and I think she would tell you this, so I'm not throwing shade on her, but I think she would say, I didn't do that by myself. I'm a great educator, but no educator does this by themselves. They have, it's a like we said earlier, it's a village. It's the teachers, it's the staff, it's the family, the friends, maybe the church at times, maybe there's a church person, whoever, but it's done in concert with one another. I wonder how much our schools are reaching out to our families and our churches and our this, that, and the other. You mentioned something to me, not on this show, but you mentioned something to me, used to mention something to me when you were working in the school district, that there was a church that would try, for lack of better terminology, try to partner with the school and uplift the teachers, if you will.
Oh,
keep
yeah.
their spirits high. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, every year there was this prominent church here in the area that would they would give the teachers all the tissue, a Kleenex and sanitizers and dry erase markers and stuff. They put together a teacher pack in cellophane every year, and then at another part of the year they would put like $5 Starbucks gift cards in the mailboxes for all the teachers. That says, their youth ministry used to put, oh my gosh, I kept some of the cards. I'm sure I have them. The youth ministry would write such beautiful letters, handwritten letters. I'm a sucker for handwritten letters. They wrote it and they said, we're praying for you. We believe in you. We appreciate you. We support you. And those little messages would come throughout like the school year. And they had like a dare I say, like an ambassador that would come to the school. And she would come through sometimes with candy to support the students, to the students or what have you. Let them know that, they're there for them. It wouldn't be a lot of them. It was like the youth leader would come through and that she was there to support the students. And then at like Teachers Appreciation, that same church would show up and bring a meal from a restaurant to show appreciation. And I was like, this is really nice. And I know someone else could say, man, well, they had a lot of money to do a lot of things. They did, but they didn't have to. They didn't have to do any of that.
Right. They didn't have to do any of it. I'm sorry.
There are other churches in the area. I don't know if certain teachers adopt certain schools because it's in their district or what have you, but they didn't have to do that, and they did, and they faithfully do it every year. And I think it encourages. Matter of fact, the teachers look forward to it. They looking for them, and they have about 20 members of their church to show up and pass out those teacher baskets and shake their hands. And then they have, I forgot, when they give those baskets out, they have Chick-fil-A breakfast that morning, and all the juices and all the coffees and stuff, and they're serving the teachers. They said, thank you, and we appreciate you for serving our community by serving our children.
And I don't think that's a small thing. I think that's a massive thing because, and it goes back to this bigger conversation. I hear Linda Wayman champion these kids and championing and fighting for those kids. Again, limited video, very one-sided in its storytelling, but I would have loved to see who is championing Linda. I would have loved to see who is her support system. Where does she go for encouragement to keep going? Because that is not an environment, and today's school systems are not environments. Let me tell you something, and this is speaking from experience from both sides, my side and Mama Noiz's side. We were all in teachers. We gave everything that we had every single day. We left nothing back. We held nothing back for our classes, for our students. We gave them everything we had. But a lot of days that meant giving them all we had and giving each other and our kids what we have left. And that's tough because you don't want your family in deficit, which goes back to what Stefan was talking about earlier. I don't want my family in deficit. So a lot of times Mama Noise didn't understand, but when I was teaching, I would stay an extra 20 minutes, 30 minutes at work to recharge because I wanted to be able to walk back through my doors of my house and not shortchange my own children and not shortchange my wife because I poured everything I had into my classrooms. And I would be curious to know is, as when Linda Wayman's home, did it suffer in any way? Did her relationship suffer in any way? Did her family, her own children, suffer in any way? Because who wants to be the pastor that saved everybody else in the church except his own family? You know what I mean? So what it takes to save today's schools, while I, again, champion Linda Wayman, I think she's an incredible educator, one of the best that's ever done it. I just think it is I just don't know if that's the blueprint, the total blueprint for saving schools, because I don't know if I want a bunch of teachers who go so far in, who feel like they have to go so far in to make up for all of the deficits. And then we absolve parents, we absolve communities from the responsibility of trying to make sure that our kids get educated. I don't know if I want that. Does that make sense, Mama Noise?
It absolutely makes sense. So did Stefan when he was saying, so the whole class got to pay for the one child, but man,
that's tricky, man. And I've made that statement, and I think people maybe thought I was shading them, but I'm not. I'm saying, man, listen, I know what it took to win right now. Don't get me wrong. Once I won Ray, I had no problems out of anybody else. But my God, do you know what it takes to win Ray?
I mean, listen.
It's exactly. Go ahead.
There are so many. If teachers could tell the stories. If they could tell the stories, and sometimes you get those parents that don't want to hear nothing. They just like, look, just teach them. Don't be, you ain't got to worry about my life and what's going on in our house. Your job is to make sure they get their lesson. Okay, but I'm the one sitting on the bathroom floor while your child is talking about taking their life, and I'm trying to just get them to the counselor. You know what I'm saying? This child done ran out of the classroom, done started a all-out search on campus because we don't know where the child is and afraid the child is going to take his life before somebody can get to him.
Yeah.
Now, and I got to be concerned. Well, now this child is on suicide watch. A child on suicide watch, and I'm sitting there going, what just happened? All because the classroom environment was so volatile that, the child was like, well, I'll just get out of your way and take my own life. And it was like, what? I mean, or it's just so many time after time. And I mean, I will tell you, I remember at our school, me and another teacher, we prayed together every morning and prayed over that school. And this is not for anybody, wherever your stance is, but I'm saying that we was praying over that school because we had challenging students that you'd be like, okay, I don't know what kind of mood this student is going to be on, today, because this student sets the tone for the whole classroom. If this student ain't having a good day, you ain't having the challenging part is that the women teachers always had to call a man. Not saying the women can't, quote, handle it, but you got these big boys that they may be 7th graders or whatever, but they were some big boys. So I'm 5'3". I got to call the football coach or the male math teacher, and he got to stand in the doorway and say, come with me. You got to come over here and do your work across the hall because you can't. It's like, okay. So the whole, that's why even in the morning, I tell Hannah, I said, listen, we praying for your school. We praying for your teachers. And she had her face turned up like, she don't like that particular teacher. I say, hey, I don't care. We praying for your teachers because teachers come from and that's the part that we fail to realize as well, Spence, is that teachers have challenges too. They got challenges in their marriage. They got challenges with their own children. They trying to make sure their own children are going to school. They trying to make sure their own children are getting the lesson. And on top of that, they're dealing with your kids. And then and parents be trying to call and get with them like the only thing they got to do all day long is think about what's going on with your child. They got life along with, teaching your kids. So,
Mama knows you preaching the gospel up here today. I got to tell you are preaching the gospel. I remember growing up watching some of my teachers, and I was blessed, man, to have a lot of black teachers. Not that I had to have black teachers. That's not what I'm saying. So please don't take it that way. But I did have a lot of black teachers in the beginning. In fact, I didn't really have any really. I had one white teacher my first grade year, and then I didn't have another one until my 5th grade year. And I remember watching them, lead their classrooms, and I never realized that they actually were people. As a kid, I never saw them as people. I just saw them as my teachers. And it wasn't until my 3rd grade year or 4th grade year that I watched my 3rd and my 4th grade year were combined, because I would spend half the day in the 3rd grade and half the day in the 4th grade. But I remember watching one of my teachers go through a divorce and still show up and teach. And I would go, wow, she's like her husband is leaving her. But you wouldn't know it. Nobody else in the class knew. I just happened to, she just happened to be one of my grandmother's best friends. But I'm watching her go through a divorce, and she's teaching me and the rest of the class, and she brought the discipline every day. She brought the intensity every day. She brought the work ethic every day. She brought the professionalism every day. But she's going through a divorce. And I'm going, wow. Mama Noise, you said a powerful thing. How do I go on a rescue mission for these kids when I'm in my own personal fight? How do I go on a rescue mission when I'm on my own personal fight in my own life, or my kids are struggling in class? Think about this. There are teachers who are trying to teach their kids in their classrooms, and then they go home and got to help their kids, their own kids, with the school project. And they got to stay up all night with the school project and help their kid get that project accomplished. Then get back up and do that all over again. That's hard, man. That's hard. And then try to find compassion for your kids in the school day when they show up because their parents didn't help them with the school project because they couldn't. It's a really difficult thing, man, that we're talking about.
It's a harsh reality. I had a harsh lesson just a couple of weeks ago. I at our school, our daughter's school, they normally send out a daily progress. No, not progress. It's a daily report that tells us the COVID cases, the number on whatever campus of Legacy school. So I didn't get a report that day. And I'm watching it daily because, if it's 0 cases of COVID at our daughter's school or how, whatever, I'm praying and I'm seeing the 0. But today on that day, there was no report. So I emailed whomever and was like, okay, where's the report? I'm looking for the report because I want to know the report. And she responded, and I had to apologize to her. Oh, Lord, I felt so bad. She was like, I am so sorry. I meant to post the report, but my mom died. And I have, that she was really, out of sorts. And I said, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I apologize. I will, keep you in my thoughts and prayers, and, continue to pray for you and your family at this time. And, it was a eye-opening moment to remind me again that people go through things. Yes, she's the school nurse that keeps us up to date with the cases, but she is a woman, she is a mother, she is a wife, and she's juggling all that and trying to keep us updated with COVID cases and whatever ailments, and give medications to whatever student that needs it, because she's the nurse, the school nurse. And I'm going, I had to get my life together, because it's like, Kenyatta, if you didn't get it today, it will be out tomorrow, or somebody else will do it. But because I was so, and continue to be so concerned about the state or status of COVID in the school my child goes to each day, it's like, don't forget, she's a person too.
Yeah, man. So I keep trying to figure out what's the answer to the question that we asked today. How do we save our schools? And there's only one answer that keeps coming to my mind, and I think that's where I want to rest my thoughts on for the rest of the show, or for this to the end of the show, and that is together. How do we save our schools? We do it together. We've got to get back to the together aspect of education in our country. Right now, for some reason, we've placed all the responsibility on the classroom and the administration, and in some aspects, we've absolved the parents of any real responsibility to trying to get these child educated. And the reality is, we can't do that. We just can't do that. It's not going to work. And it's ironic because COVID kind of revealed a lot of things as it relates to the educational system in this country. And it revealed the most glaring flaw in the system. And that is that our parents are woefully disconnected from the process. When kids had to go home and they were forced to carry a laptop to the house and have to help their kids at the house one-on-one with all these assignments, you found out just how disconnected these parents are from the assignments, from the responsibility. Parents didn't know how to log in. Parents didn't know that they even had to log in. Parents didn't know how to check the grades. Parents didn't know that the grades came out and how frequently they came out. Parents didn't know how the system even worked. Parents didn't know anything, and they were lost in the sauce. And so now we realize there's a gap. There's a massive gap in making sure that our kids get and have what they need to be successful. And the gap is even greater because when you go to impoverished communities, it's worse, because not only does the parent not know how to get on and log on, this, that, and the other, the parent themselves don't even know how to use the computer. So there's a tremendous deficiency, and it's very problematic to the bigger plan. So one of the things I think we got to do is we got to get the parents back in the schools and educate them on how to use the process, how to use the stuff. Parents, maybe those that need it, we need to offer them the opportunity to come in and sit with those Chromebooks and say, here's how you use it. And here's how you get on this site. And this is where you find the homework. And this is how you communicate with the teachers, and take them through some tutorials, or, do Zoom tutorials and show them through a Zoom situation how to be able to help their child and be more efficient. But we've got to do this together. We can't have educators, because here's the other thing that's happening right now, and it's going to continue to happen, Mama Noise. because of the circumstances that we're now in. Here in North Dallas, we've had 8 superintendents from major districts within our area. Major districts, Dallas ISD, so many districts, too many to name. But they've resigned. Burnout. There's going to be more burnout as long as there are COVID responsibilities. There's more stuff that's going to happen. Teachers are getting burnt out, and they're woefully overworked and deeply underpaid. So when you have that as a vicious cycle, we're going to see people jumping ship. And then if you think we have a big problem now, you're talking about an even bigger problem on the way.
Okay, I will tell you, it has been disturbing looking at our local news, seeing one after the other. I mean, you know how you say it figuratively, they was dropping like flies. Literally watching each superintendent resign week after week is like, what? I mean, we have been applauding Superintendent Hinojosa over the DISD school district for years because of his stance in making sure that the kids are safe. And it's not been popular with those parents that say, I don't want my child to have no mask on the whole school day, blah, blah, blah. I have been applauding him because even though we know our governor, I'm trying to think of a nice thing to say, so I just won't say anything. You say, if you can't say anything nice, then don't say anything. So our governor that I don't have pleasant words for, the superintendent stood up to him and said, well, if you won't lead us, I will, and has led the DISD school district successfully all these years. Has just a couple of months ago said this is the last school year. He's resigning from his position. Then, like 2 weeks later, Fort Worth DISD superintendent, I'm resigning from my position. And I said, okay, Fort Worth DISD. Oh, okay. Then last week, Plano ISD superintendent. I said, wait a minute. The literal sense of dropping like flies.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, those are 3 of the biggest districts in Dallas-Fort Worth. Those are maybe arguably the 3 biggest, but Dallas is for sure big. Fort Worth is for sure big. Plano is big in the sense, not necessarily in size, but in influence and money. There's a lot of money in Plano ISD. And for those 3 to resign, that is a big deal. That is I
am still flabbergasted by the whole thing because you're saying, okay, maybe the 1. Okay, well, maybe a possibility of 2. But then you're like, 3? Really? Wow. I mean, it's been utterly astounding. But I just want to know one thing, Spence. Why won't they pay the teachers more? Why won't they do that?
That's a great question. What side do you want me to argue from?
Well, I won't have you argue from the parent, from the teacher side, because you are retired from teaching. So
right. So if because that argument is easy, is to say, I don't know, they're selfish, they're this, that, and the other. From the governmental side, I would say their argument would be the money's not there because of the way that COVID has affected the district's ability to pull in federal dollars based on the processes that are in place to assure that kids are either in school or educated or whatever. Those old antiquated measurements of how we divvy up money, if you will. Mm-hmm. So they would argue, I'm sure they would argue to some measure that COVID has affected the ability to pay higher wages at this time. Now, the reason why I would push back on that a little bit is because we found a way to pay people for doing nothing in this society. So if our federal government and our state governments wanted to do something, it's mighty interesting to me that we find ways to do the things we want to do. So I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not, that money is just not available. They would argue it probably isn't, but I would argue make up the money like you do everything else.
I can't speak for all districts, but I've been paying close attention to what's been going on in our in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Right. And I will tell you, Arlington ISD came up with some money somehow.
Yeah.
And the type of bonuses that they're offering, is making other people leave other districts and come to their district because they're like, we'll give you a bonus. Where in the school district before, you didn't get your bonus until after they've had the year meeting and deciding, what they can allocate and this and that. And then you might get your Christmas bonus. But all of a sudden, Arlington ISD, I don't know what they did differently, and perhaps they're the trailblazers, but somebody better do something, or else you're going to end up in the same situation like New Mexico that's got the National Guard teaching their students because they don't have the teachers.
Yeah, I think we're at a crisis place with our schools on many levels, not just the at-risk elements that Linda Wayman are dealing with on that level, but because of what COVID has done to all districts, we're at a crisis level that the burnout is there, the resources are no longer there, the frustration levels are at an all-time high, and people are just tired. The students are tired, the teachers are tired, everybody's tired. And it doesn't feel like there's an end in sight. That's the other thing. It does, as much as you're trying to force people back to normality and saying, "Oh, it's over." And listen, just because you declare a thing to be done doesn't mean that it actually is. So people can declare COVID to be over all they want to, and I keep hearing all these reports of, "Oh, it looks like the numbers are dropping and everything is about to get back to normal." Well, what does that mean? Like, the death rates are still climbing every day. So I don't understand what you mean, how it's getting back to normal. What does that mean? Normal to what? None of this is normal. So I'm saying I think districts are going to have to be creative. To Chad's point, Arlington has all those attractions and taxpayers, whatever. I think districts are going to have to be creative in how they compensate teachers, and then also the bottom line is you're going to have to find the money to pay them. Somebody may have to take a pay cut. We may have to move some money around to get money into the hands of the basic element of our educators, making sure that our kids stay educated. It's tricky. Maybe we have to take some of these restrictions off the kids until we get back to some measure of normalcy. And I know what you're saying. Well, how do we know if the kids are being successful? Well, listen, right now we are under enormous challenges to educate. Enormous challenges, facing challenges we have never seen before. And it is not fair to the teacher or to the student to judge these students based on these circumstances in a normal fashion. That's not right, because none of this is normal. So I think we got to be creative in the way we do everything and find other ways to compensate these teachers, find other ways to financially reward these teachers, find other ways to celebrate these students and give them an opportunity for success. This is not, we got to do something different. We got to do something different. And I think, like I said, the key phrase of how do we save our schools, I think it's together. We got to do this together. Involve the parents, involve the community leaders, involve the city governments, involve everybody into the conversation to where we can really truly come up with reasonable solutions as to how this can change and how this can be done better.
You know, I totally agree with what you're saying. But at the same time, I had a thought about Dr. Smith's quote a couple of weeks back, and she stated that the expectation is still the expectation for map testing, STAR testing, and all that. And you're going, are you serious? These kids are in the middle of a pandemic.
Right.
They are experiencing the normal stuff on top of, you know, the deck has been stacked.
Right.
You know, so it's more than just a regular school year. It's having to have a mask on all day long. And the scary part is the ones with behavioral challenges already have behavioral challenges. Now you want to require them to have a mask on top of that. You like, are they going to comply? Are they now you're trying to make sure everybody still has their, you know, is still going to follow the protocol on top of the assignments, on top of the projects, on top of, you know, trying to be social, on top of all of that. So it's a lot going on to still have such high expectations. Talking about, well, you know, the kids scored low on map testing and the pre-testing. Seriously? I guess they did. They are going through a lot right now, which means they're going through a lot. The teachers are going through a lot. The admin is going through a lot. The parents are going through a lot. We're all going through a lot right now.
I had to kind of confront a teacher, one of my daughter's teachers, on some stuff and kind of called her out a little bit. And there's a part of me that kind of felt bad for doing it because I do understand that we're going through a lot, but I also can't allow yourself to disconnect and disengage completely from the responsibility that you have. You know, you're still in the fight, and as long as you're still in the fight, you got to fight. And but I'll meet you at the fight though. And that's where I think I can help you. I'll do my part as a parent to make sure that my child does her part as a student. But I need you to do your part as an educator. And we'll try to lighten the load for each other. So if you tell me I can help your student, but I need you to get her there at 7:30, and I need her to be prepared, and I'll make sure she's there at 7:30, that she's fed and ready to go. And I just need you to meet her there with an intensity and an intention to educate. And if we do that, I think we can get to the other side of a lot of this. But if I don't meet you where you are and you don't meet me where I am and we don't fight for one another, I think that's where the ball is going to get dropped and we're going to be wildly ineffective. And we can't make this work. We cannot make this work. We got to work together and fight for one another. I listen, my wife and I, we're teachers. We're former teachers. So we get it. We understand. And we definitely understand the struggle of what you're dealing with right now because it's hard under normal circumstances. So it's an immense challenge under the circumstances that you're in right now. Listen, a lot of kids didn't fare so well in the pandemic, at the beginning of the pandemic when the kids were all the way at home. Because it was hard to get those assignments in. It was hard to stay on top of that stuff. It was frustrating for the kids because there was no personal instruction to break down some of the stuff that they were reading on these computers. It was hard, but we got to work together, and that's the point that I think I'm trying to make in this conversation. It's a together thing.
I was gonna say, I think it's forcing us to have to communicate more than we ever had before.
Yeah.
Used to be you just like, oh, look, the progress report.
Yeah.
Oh, look, the report card. Well, now with all the technology, I get an email. Hananiah needs to turn in her Google Classroom, whatever. And I'm like, okay, she hadn't turned it in. No problem. I got you. But it's like before, we'll contact you when necessary. We're having to communicate more often, of which I think will benefit the child.
In the long run, yes.
In the long run, yeah.
Absolutely. Man, what a great discussion this has been. Shout out to the thought engineer. Shout out to Cuz and Al for coming through and sharing their wisdom and knowledge. Shout out to all of you in the chat, Lillian and all of you in the chat who have contributed, and Chad and everybody. Tomorrow, I want to talk about tomorrow. Mama Noiz, tell the people who's coming through tomorrow.
Tomorrow, our soror, Patrice Moreau, is coming to talk to us about her new book, her new books. One is an
don't tell them about the books yet.
Okay, I'm sorry. Her two oh gosh, now you've thrown me off. Her book and another special book that she has come out with, and you'll be blessed by her story and the reason that she wrote the book, and it's going to be an exciting time for Women Wednesday.
Absolutely. So don't miss tomorrow. Should be amazing. And also tomorrow night, don't miss tomorrow night with the five. The unexpected happened over the weekend, and the undeserving happened in some people's eyes as it relates to the NBA All-Star. So we'll talk about all of that tomorrow on the 5, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Don't miss either one of those tomorrow. And then, of course, Thursday morning, we got Believe in the ACC with Charlie Ward and Kendrick Haskins. So don't miss that either. So there you go. Do you got any other questions, Mama Noiz?
No, I think we have covered the gambit.
We really have.
What's going on right now, and hope to encourage those that keep praying for the schools. Keep praying for the schools. I know I get under our daughter's skin, but I just tell us, listen, hey, we got to pray for your school. We got to pray for schools. And I said, we got to, even those teachers you feel like, not her, listen, we got to pray for her, because we don't know what's going on at home as to why she is, having this type of, or whatever's going on with her. So, do your part in that part, and pray for your administrators. I'm a strong advocate for prayer. We are a praying family, and and just do your part. Get involved and listen.
I want to give a shout out real quick to a guy who I look at as a friend and as even a mentor, even though we're close in age. Stephen Weathers just pulled up. Shout out to Mr. Stephen Weathers.
Wow.
Mr. Moorhead's finest. Appreciate you, bruh, for pulling in to watch and see what your peoples is doing today. That's what's up. And man, I just had to call him out because he wasn't expecting it. So we'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again. So don't miss tomorrow's shows. It's going to be great. Again, Soror Patrice Moreau is going to be on the show tomorrow, so don't miss that. And we might have another surprise or two, but I ain't gonna talk about that.
Yeah, I didn't know if he was gonna mention that, but
I'm not mentioning nothing. So
okay.
All right. With that being said, appreciate y'all. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And Talkin NOIZ, man. We out this piece.
We're talking